The funeral director's voice droned on about eternal rest while I stared at the mahogany casket, wondering if Dad would have hated the gaudy gold handles. He always said flashy things were for people who had nothing real to show. My name is Mia, and I was burying the last person who truly understood me. "Beautiful service!" someone whispered behind me. I nodded without turning around, my black dress sticking to my back in the humid chapel air. The whole thing felt surreal, like watching someone else's life through thick glass. Davis sat beside me, checking his phone every few minutes. His wife Morgan kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, though I hadn't seen any actual tears. She'd spent more time fixing her makeup in the bathroom than talking to any of Dad's friends. After the burial, people filtered back to the house, our family home, where Dad had lived alone since Mom died 3 years ago. The same house where Davis and I had grown up, where Mom had tended her rose garden, where Dad had built that ridiculous treehouse that still hung in the old oak. I was arranging leftover sandwiches in the kitchen when Davis cornered me. "Mia, we need to talk." His voice had that edge it always got when he wanted something. "Can it wait? People are still—" "No, it can't wait." He glanced around, then pulled me into Dad's study. Morgan followed, closing the door behind her. "Look, I know this is hard," Davis started, "but we need to discuss the house." I blinked. "The house?" "Dad and I talked about it before he died. He wanted me to have it." The words hit me like cold water. "What?" Morgan stepped forward, her voice honey-sweet. "It makes sense, Mia. Davis has the family, the stability. You're still renting that little apartment, right?" "What are you talking about?" Davis ran his hand through his hair. "The night before Dad died, when you went home to shower, he told me he wanted me to take care of the house, said it needed someone who could maintain it properly." "He said that?" "His exact words were, 'Davis, this house needs to stay in the family.' He was worried about you handling all the responsibility." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Dad said I couldn't handle it?" Morgan touched my arm. "Oh, honey, it's not personal. You're just... you're more of a free spirit. This place needs someone practical." "I've been helping Dad with everything for 3 years. The bills, the maintenance, And you did great," Davis interrupted. "But now it's time for the next generation. Morgan and I have plans. Real plans." "What kind of plans?" Morgan's eyes lit up. "Well, obviously this whole place needs updating. The kitchen is from the 80s, and don't get me started on the wallpaper. We're thinking open concept, maybe knock out some walls." "Knock out walls?" "The house has good bones," Davis said, "but it's stuck in the past. We want to honor Dad's memory by making it something special." I stared at them both. "By tearing it apart?" "By making it livable," Morgan snapped, her sweet mask slipping. "No offense, but your parents had 0 sense of style. That floral wallpaper in the dining room, the ancient appliances, it's like a museum in here." "Mom picked out that wallpaper." "Exactly my point." Morgan pulled out her phone. "I've already been looking at paint colors. Something modern. Clean lines, neutral tones." Davis nodded. "We'll keep some of the sentimental stuff, obviously, but this place needs to work for a real family." "A real family?" "You know what I mean. Kids, entertaining, actual life happening here instead of just existing." The words stung more than they should have. I'd been the one visiting Dad every weekend, helping him with groceries, sitting with him during his chemo treatments. But apparently, that was just existing. "I need to think about this," I said. Davis's expression hardened. Think about what? Dad made his wishes clear. I haven't even seen the will yet. The will is just paperwork, Mia. This is about family, about doing what Dad wanted. Morgan was already measuring the kitchen with her eyes. We'll need to move fast if we want to get contractors in before winter. I'm thinking we could have the whole renovation done by spring. Don't drag this out, sis, Davis said, his voice carrying that familiar, condescending tone. It's not worth the legal headache. I watched him smirk, watched Morgan mentally rearranging our childhood home, and felt something sharp twist in my chest. They had no idea what they were asking for. The sealed envelope containing Dad's will sat in my purse, still unopened from the lawyer's office. I'd been too emotional to read it earlier, but now I was ready to see what Dad had really wanted. I waited until everyone left before opening the envelope. My hands shook as I unfolded the legal documents, scanning through the formal language until I found what I was looking for. To my daughter, Mia Russell, I leave the family home at 412 Maple Street, along with all contents and property therein, recognizing her as the sole heir to this estate. I read it 3 times. Davis wasn't mentioned anywhere in the property section, but then I saw it, a separate page, handwritten in Dad's careful script. Final clause. Should any beneficiary engage in actions that defile, disrespect, or destroy the legacy and memory of this family home, they forfeit all rights to inheritance and property. This includes, but is not limited to, destruction of family heirlooms, removal of sentimental items without consent, or alterations that erase the character and history of the home. Mia, as executor, has sole discretion in determining violations of this clause. My phone buzzed. A text from Davis. Talk to a contractor. Can start demo next week. Don't worry about the cost. We've got it covered. I screenshot the message and called my cousin Maya. Mia, how are you holding up? Maya, I need you to look at something. Can you come over? Now. It's almost 10. Please, it's about Dad's will. 20 minutes later, Maya sat at Dad's kitchen table, reading the documents with her lawyer eyes. She whistled low. This is bulletproof. Your dad was thorough. So, the house is really mine? Completely. And this clause? She tapped the handwritten page. It's genius. Vague enough to give you flexibility, specific enough to hold up in court. Davis thinks Dad promised him the house. Maya snorted. Davis thinks a lot of things. Did your dad actually say that? I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't matter what he said if it's not in the will, right? Right. Verbal promises about property mean nothing without documentation. Maya leaned back. What are you going to do? I'm not sure yet. Well, whatever you decide, document everything. Photos, texts, receipts. If they're planning renovations, you'll want proof of what they're doing. The next morning, I found Davis and Morgan in the backyard with a landscaping crew. Morning, sis, Davis called out. Hope you don't mind. We're getting quotes for the yard work. Morgan stood near Mom's rose garden, gesturing wildly. This whole section needs to go. It's so overgrown and dated. Those are Mom's roses. We're Mom's roses, Morgan corrected. Now they're just taking up space where we could put a proper patio. One of the landscapers, a young guy with dirt under his nails, looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, some of these roses are really old varieties. Might be worth preserving. We're not running a botanical garden, Morgan snapped. We want clean, modern landscaping, low maintenance. I pulled out my phone and started recording. What are you doing? Davis asked. Just documenting the process. You don't need to do that. We'll handle everything. I'm sure you will. Morgan posed next to the roses, her phone held high. This is going to look amazing on Instagram. Before and after shots always get great engagement. She posted a story. Time to ditch this granny backyard. Out with the old, in with the bold. Russell Rado. Home renovation. New beginnings. I screenshotted immediately. The contractor's coming Thursday to start on the kitchen, Davis said. We're thinking of opening up the whole first floor. Really modernize the flow. What about Dad's study? That's going too. We need the space for a proper dining room. But all his books. We'll donate them. No point keeping dusty old books nobody reads. Morgan nodded enthusiastically. I'm thinking we could put in a wine fridge where the bookshelf is. Much more practical for entertaining. I watched them plan the destruction of everything Dad had loved and felt that cold anger settling deeper in my chest. Sounds like you have it all figured out, I said. We do, Davis replied. Don't worry, Mia. We'll make sure you get some of the sentimental stuff before we start. Maybe Mom's jewelry box or whatever. How generous. He missed the sarcasm entirely. That's what family does. We take care of each other. That afternoon, I sat in my apartment, scrolling through Morgan's social media. She'd posted a dozen stories about their renovation journey, each one more disrespectful than the last. Pictures of Dad's furniture labeled vintage finds that need to go, videos of her measuring rooms while talking about erasing the past to build the future. I saved every single one. My phone rang. Maya, I saw Morgan's Instagram. Please tell me you're documenting this. Every post, every text, every conversation. Good. Keep going. Let them dig their own grave. How deep should I let them go? Maya's laugh was sharp. As deep as they want, cousin. As deep as they want. I whispered to my empty apartment. Good. Keep posting. The sound of chainsaws woke me up at 7 a.m. on Thursday. I threw on clothes and drove to the house, my stomach churning with each rev of the engine. Davis met me at the front door, wearing a hard hat like he was running a construction site. Perfect timing. You can help us decide what to keep from Dad's study before the crew clears it out. Inside, the house looked like a war zone. Plastic sheeting covered everything, and workers were hauling furniture out the back door. I watched Dad's leather armchair, the one where he'd read to me as a kid, get tossed into a dumpster. Careful with that, I called out. It's just old furniture, Mia, Morgan said, appearing beside me with a clipboard. We're donating the decent stuff and trashing the rest. That chair was Dad's favorite. Was being the key word. We need to think about the future, not cling to the past. In the study, boxes of Dad's books sat stacked by the window. A worker was already dismantling the built-in shelves Dad had installed himself 20 years ago. Wait, I said. Can I go through these first? Davis sighed. Mia, we don't have time for you to get sentimental over every little thing. Just give me an hour. Fine, 1 hour, then it all goes. I started pulling books from boxes, my hands shaking. Dad's medical journals, his collection of poetry, the novels he'd reread every winter. Each one felt like losing him all over again. Oh my God, look at this wallpaper, Morgan said, peeling back a corner where the bookshelf had been. It's even worse underneath. We'll have to strip the whole room. The wallpaper was pale blue with tiny flowers, the same pattern from my childhood bedroom. Mom had chosen it because she said flowers made everything feel more alive. That's actually vintage, I said. It might be worth preserving. Morgan laughed. Vintage is just a nice word for old and ugly. This whole house is stuck in 1985. A crash from the kitchen made us all turn. One of the workers had dropped Dad's china cabinet, and pieces of Mom's good dishes scattered across the floor. Shit! The worker muttered. Sorry about that. Don't worry about it, Davis said. We weren't keeping those anyway. I knelt down, picking up fragments of the plates Mom had used for every holiday dinner. The blue and white pattern was shattered beyond repair. These were Mom's wedding china, and now they're trash, Morgan said. Honestly, Mia, you can't save everything. Sometimes you have to let go. I carefully placed the pieces in my purse, ignoring her eye roll. The doorbell rang, and I heard a familiar voice in the hallway. Hello? Is anyone home? Anna stood in the doorway, her grey hair pulled back in its usual bun. She'd been Mom's closest friend and had helped maintain the garden for years after Mom got sick. Anna! I stood up, grateful for a friendly face. I heard the noise and wanted to check. She stopped, taking in the chaos. What's happening here? We're renovating, Davis said, bringing the house into the 21st century. Anna's face went pale. But all of your mother's things. We're keeping the important stuff, Morgan said dismissively. Just getting rid of the clutter. Anna walked to the kitchen window, looking out at the backyard where workers were digging up the rose garden. Her hand went to her throat. The roses, she whispered. They had to go, Morgan explained. We're putting in a deck and outdoor kitchen, much more functional. Anna turned to me, tears in her eyes. Mia, those roses. Your mother planted them when you were born. She tended them every day, even when she was sick. I know. She used to say they were her legacy, that they'd bloom long after she was gone. Morgan made an impatient noise. They're just plants. We can buy new ones if we want flowers. Anna's composure cracked. Just plants. Those roses were 34 years old. Your mother grafted some of them herself. She won 1 prizes at the garden club. And now they're compost, Davis said. Anna, I appreciate everything you did for Mom, but we need to move forward. Anna looked at him like he'd slapped her. Move forward? By destroying everything she loved? By making practical choices. This house needs to work for a modern family. Anna turned back to the window, watching the workers pile rose bushes into a truck. She started crying. Quiet, heartbroken sobs that made my chest ache. I should go, she said. Anna, wait. But she was already walking toward the door, her shoulders shaking. I followed her outside, pulling out my phone to record the destruction. The entire garden was gone. 30 years of Mom's careful work, reduced to dirt and tire tracks. This is unbelievable, I muttered, filming the truck full of rose bushes. My phone buzzed. A new Instagram story from Morgan. Russell Redux. From dead to designer. Sometimes you have to tear down to build up. Transformation Tuesday. Home Reno. Out with the old. The caption was overlaid on a photo of the demolished garden with laughing emojis. I screenshot it, my hands trembling with rage. I found Davis alone in the garage the next morning, sorting through Dad's tools. We need to talk. He didn't look up from the toolbox. If this is about the roses again, it's about everything. The furniture, the dishes, the garden. You're destroying the house. I'm improving it. By erasing every trace of Mom and Dad? Davis finally looked at me, his expression hard. You always do this, Mia. You live in the past. You can't let anything go. Those weren't just things, Davis. They were memories. They were junk. He slammed the toolbox shut. You want to know the truth? Dad was embarrassed by how outdated everything was. He just didn't have the money to fix it. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time he had anyone over? When's the last time he entertained? He lived like a hermit in a museum. The words hit like a physical blow. He was grieving. For 3 years? Come on, Mia. At some point you have to move on. Like you moved on? You barely visited him. Davis's jaw tightened. I was building a business. I was providing for my family. Some of us can't just drift through life working part-time at a library. I'm an archivist. Same thing. You catalog other people's old stuff because you're too scared to create anything new. I stared at him, seeing the same dismissive look he'd given me since we were kids. Always the smart one, the successful one, the one with real plans. You know what your problem is, he continued. You think being sentimental makes you special, but it just makes you weak. And you think being cruel makes you strong. I think being practical makes me an adult. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Dad knew you couldn't handle this place. That's why he wanted me to have it. Did he actually say that, Davis? Or are you just telling yourself that? His silence was answer enough. That afternoon, Anna knocked on my apartment door, holding a small wooden box. I found this in my attic, she said. Your mother gave it to me for safekeeping years ago. Inside were letters, dozens of them in Mom's handwriting, cards she'd written for birthdays that never came, notes she'd planned to leave for special occasions. She wrote these during her treatments, Anna explained. She wanted to make sure you'd have her words even after she was gone. I picked up an envelope marked, "For Mia, when you need strength." She knew, Anna said quietly. She knew Davis would try to erase everything. She was worried about what would happen to the house, to the garden, to all the things that mattered. Why didn't she tell me? She didn't want to burden you with family drama while she was dying. But she made me promise to give you these if... Anna gestured helplessly. If something like this happened. I opened the letter with shaking hands. My dearest Mia, if you're reading this, it means someone is trying to take away the things we loved. Don't let them. You are stronger than you know, and you understand what family really means. The house isn't just walls and rooms. It's the love we put into it. Protect that love. I believe in you. Mom. At the bottom, she'd added. P.S. Check your father's desk drawer, bottom left. He has something for you too. There's more, Anna said, pulling out another envelope. This one's marked, "For my daughter, who remembers." I couldn't read it through my tears. She loved you so much, Anna whispered. She was so proud of how you took care of your father, how you preserved the family stories. She said you were the keeper of memories. Davis thinks that makes me weak. Davis is a fool. Memory is what makes us human. Without it, we're just animals, consuming and discarding. That evening, I drove to the house. Davis and Morgan were at some business dinner, so I used my key to slip inside. The place was barely recognizable. Walls torn down, floors ripped up, everything covered in dust and debris. I found Dad's desk in the garage, marked for donation. The bottom left drawer was locked, but I found the key taped underneath. Inside was a leather journal and a sealed envelope marked "For Mia." The journal's last entry was dated the night before Dad died. Davis came by today. He's already planning what to do with the house. talking about renovations, about making it modern. He doesn't understand that some things shouldn't be changed. The house holds our history. Sarah's garden, Mia's childhood, all the love we poured into these walls. Davis will break it. He'll turn it into something cold and empty. But Mia, she knows what matters. She'll protect what needs protecting. I pray she finds the strength to fight for it. The envelope contained a copy of the will and a handwritten note. The house is yours, sweetheart. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Love, Dad. I sat in the empty garage, surrounded by the remnants of my childhood, and felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, but underneath it was something harder, something that felt like resolve. 2 months later, I stood in the driveway staring at what used to be my childhood home. The house was unrecognizable, stark white walls, massive windows, a modern front door that looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. Even the old oak tree had been trimmed into some geometric shape that would have made Dad sick. Cars lined the street for Davis and Morgan's housewarming party. I'd gotten the invitation 3 days ago, a sleek black card with gold lettering that read, "Celebrate the new Russell legacy." My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. "We're here. Kaya's with me. Ready for this?" I walked through the front door and barely recognized the interior. The walls between the kitchen, dining room, and living room were gone, creating one massive space with cold marble countertops and furniture that looked like it came from a showroom. "Mia!" Morgan appeared beside me, wearing a cocktail dress that probably cost more than my rent. "You made it! What do you think?" "It's different. Isn't it amazing? We completely transformed the space. Davis, come here. Mia's finally seeing the finished product." Davis approached with a drink in his hand, looking smugly satisfied. "Pretty incredible, right? You wouldn't even know it's the same house." "That's certainly true." The contractor said it was one of the most dramatic renovations he'd ever done. We basically gutted everything and started fresh. A woman I didn't recognize joined our conversation. "This place is stunning! You two have such vision!" "Thank you." Morgan beamed. "We knew we had to think big. The previous owners had zero sense of style." "Previous owners?" I asked. "Well, you know what I mean. The old decorating was so dated." Maya appeared at my elbow, looking sharp in her navy suit. "Mia, there you are." She turned to Davis and Morgan. "Congratulations on the renovation. Very thorough. Maya, right?" Davis extended his hand. "Thanks for coming. I know you and Mia are close." "We are. I've been following the whole process on social media. Fascinating documentation." Morgan's smile flickered slightly. "Oh, you saw my posts?" "Every single one. Very detailed." Kaya joined us, carrying 2 glasses of wine. "This place is wild. I almost didn't recognize it from the outside." "That was the goal," Davis said. "We wanted to honor the past while embracing the future." "By tearing down everything that came before?" Kaya asked innocently. "By making smart choices about what to preserve and what to update." "And what did you decide to preserve?" Maya asked. Davis and Morgan exchanged glances. "Well, we kept the structure, the bones of the house." "The bones," Maya repeated. "Interesting." More guests gathered around us, drawn by the conversation. I recognized some of Dad's old neighbors, a few family friends, and several people I didn't know at all. "The transformation is incredible," one neighbor said. "I drive by every day and can't believe it's the same place." "We're so proud of what we've accomplished," Morgan said, pulling out her phone. Let me show you some before and after photos. She swiped through images of the old house, Dad's study, Mom's kitchen, the rose garden in full bloom. The guests made appropriate sounds of amazement at the contrast. The previous aesthetic was so grandmotherly, Morgan explained. We wanted something that reflected our generation's values. What values are those? Maya asked. Progress, innovation, not being trapped by the past. An older woman I recognized as Mrs. Patterson from down the street spoke up. I remember when your mother planted that rose garden. She was so proud of those flowers. Roses are high maintenance, Morgan said dismissively. We needed something more practical. Those roses won prizes at the garden show, Mrs. Patterson continued. Your mother worked on them for years. And now we have a beautiful deck where people can actually gather, Davis interjected. Much more functional. Functional, Mrs. Patterson repeated, her voice flat. The conversation was getting uncomfortable. I could see guests shifting, sensing the tension. Davis cleared his throat and raised his glass. Actually, since everyone's here, I'd like to say something. The room quieted as people turned to listen. Morgan and I are so grateful you could all be here tonight to celebrate this achievement. This house represents everything we believe in, taking something old and making it new, refusing to be held back by outdated thinking. He gestured around the room. This house is a statement, not a museum. It's about the future, not the past. We've created something that reflects who we are, not who we used to be. Several guests nodded approvingly. Others looked less convinced. We've built something that will last, Davis continued. Something that represents the Russell name with pride. The words hung in the air. I felt Maya's hand touch my arm gently. I stepped forward and raised my own glass. I have a statement too, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room. You'll want to sit down for this. The room fell silent. Davis's confident smile faltered as guests turned to look at me. Mia, he said carefully, what are you doing? I pulled out a folded document from my purse. I'm reading Dad's will, the real one. We already went through this. No, we didn't. I unfolded the papers. See, Davis, you made an assumption. You assumed Dad left you the house based on some conversation you claim happened, but you never actually read the will. Morgan stepped closer to Davis. What is she talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Dad left this house to me, not to Davis. To me. The guests murmured among themselves. Davis's face went red. That's impossible. Dad promised nothing. I held up the document. Would you like me to read the relevant section? To my daughter, Mia Russell, I leave the family home at 412 Maple Street, along with all contents and property therein. You're lying, Morgan said, but her voice shook. Maya, would you like to verify this? Maya stepped forward, pulling out her own set of papers. I'm a lawyer, and I can confirm that this will is valid and legally binding. The house belongs to Mia. Davis grabbed for the papers. Let me see that. I held them away from him. But wait, there's more. Dad included a special clause. Would you like to hear it? Mia, stop. Davis warned. The clause states that any beneficiary who defiles, disrespects, or destroys the legacy of the family home forfeits their inheritance. All of it. The room was dead quiet now. I could hear the air conditioning humming. What does that mean? Someone whispered. It means, I continued, that by gutting this house, by destroying Mom's garden, By throwing away Dad's belongings and mocking everything our parents built, Davis has violated the terms of the will. Morgan's face went white. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Maya, would you like to present the evidence? Maya opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Over the past 2 months, we've documented extensive violations of the will's terms. Social media posts mocking the family legacy, destruction of heirlooms, removal of sentimental items without consent. She held up printouts of Morgan's Instagram posts. Here we have Morgan referring to the family home as dead and calling the renovations erasing the past to build the future. Those were just captions, Morgan protested. Here's another one where she calls the original decor granny style and says it's time to ditch the old and embrace the bold. Davis stepped forward. This is ridiculous. You can't use social media posts. Actually, we can, Maya interrupted. These posts demonstrate clear intent to disrespect the family legacy. Combined with the physical destruction of the property, they constitute a clear violation of the will's terms. She pulled out more documents. We also have witness statements from Anna Wells, who observed the destruction of the rose garden, and from Mrs. Patterson, who saw family heirlooms being thrown in dumpsters. Mrs. Patterson nodded grimly. I saw them throw out your mother's china cabinet. It broke my heart. This is insane, Davis said, but his voice cracked. You can't take the house away because of some technicality. It's not a technicality, I said. It's exactly what Dad intended. He knew this would happen. He knew you'd try to erase everything he and Mom built. I pulled out Dad's journal and read aloud. Davis will break it. He'll turn it into something cold and empty. But Mia, she knows what matters. Davis lunged for the journal, but Maya stepped between us. Don't make this worse, she warned. Worse? Davis laughed bitterly. How could it be worse? You're stealing my house. It was never your house, I said quietly. It was always mine. Morgan was scrolling frantically through her phone. I can delete the posts. We can put everything back. Too late, Maya said. The damage is done. The renovations are complete. The heirlooms are destroyed, and the evidence is documented. She pulled out another set of papers. These are the legal documents transferring full ownership to Mia, effective immediately. You can't do this, Davis said desperately. I'll fight it. I'll get my own lawyer. With what money? Maya asked. According to the mortgage documents we obtained, you took out a second mortgage on your own home to pay for these renovations. You're already in debt up to your eyeballs. Davis's business partner, Dorian, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, suddenly spoke up. Wait, you mortgaged your house for this? It was an investment, Davis said weakly. An investment in property you didn't own. Dorian's voice rose. Davis, we have 3 projects depending on your capital. If you're broke... I'm not broke. You are now, Maya said, handing him the papers. These are the eviction notices. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. The room erupted in whispers and shocked murmurs. Several guests started moving toward the door. Morgan was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. This isn't fair. We put everything into this house. You put everything into destroying this house, I corrected. And now you're facing the consequences. Davis stared at the papers in his hands, his face cycling through disbelief, rage, and finally, defeat. You planned this, he said. You let us spend our money, let us do all the work, just so you could take it away. I met his eyes steadily. I gave you every opportunity to respect our parents' memory. You chose not to. Maya stepped forward with one final document. Mia is now the sole owner of this property. You're trespassing. The party cleared out within 20 minutes. Guests grabbed their coats and mumbled awkward goodbyes, leaving behind half-empty wine glasses and the wreckage of Davis and Morgan's social standing. Davis stood in the middle of his renovated living room, still holding the eviction papers. 30 days, he said numbly. You're giving us 30 days. That's what the law requires, Maya replied, packing up her briefcase. Be grateful it's not less. Morgan sat on the white leather couch, her face buried in her hands. We spent everything, the savings, the retirement fund, the equity from our house. How much? I asked. 80,000, Davis said quietly. Maybe more. I stopped counting. Dorian shook his head. Davis, I can't believe you did this without telling me. Our business partnership is based on your capital investment. I know. But once the legal stuff gets sorted out... There's nothing to sort out, Maya interrupted. The house belongs to Mia. Your renovations were done without legal ownership. You have no claim to reimbursement. But we improved the property value. You destroyed a historic home without permission. You're lucky Mia isn't suing you for damages. Dorian pulled out his phone. I need to call my lawyer. If you can't meet your financial obligations to the business... Dorian, wait, but Dorian was already walking toward the door. I'll have my attorney contact you about dissolving the partnership. I can't be tied to someone who makes decisions like this. The front door slammed behind him. Morgan looked up, her makeup completely ruined. This is all your fault, she said to me. You could have just let us have the house. You don't even have a family. Morgan, Davis warned. No, I'm serious. What do you need a big house for? You live alone. You work part-time. You have no ambition. We could have made something beautiful here. You did make something, I said. You made a monument to your own selfishness. At least we tried to build something instead of just hoarding the past like some crazy old lady. Maya stepped forward. I'd be very careful about what you say right now. Harassment could affect your eviction timeline. Morgan stood up abruptly. I'm going to pack. I can't look at any of you right now. She stormed upstairs, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. Davis sank into a chair. You really hate me, don't you? I don't hate you, Davis. I'm disappointed in you. Same thing. No, it's not. Hate would have been easier. He laughed bitterly. Easier than what? Destroying my life? You destroyed your own life. I just enforced Dad's wishes. Dad's wishes? Or your revenge fantasy? I sat down across from him. Do you remember when Mom got sick? What does that have to do with anything? Do you remember how Dad took care of her? How he learned to cook her favorite meals? How he drove her to every appointment? How he slept in that uncomfortable chair next to her hospital bed? Davis was quiet. Do you remember how he kept her garden alive after she died? How he watered those roses every morning, even when his arthritis made it hard to hold the hose? Mia, that's what love looks like, Davis. It's not about building something new. It's about protecting what matters. The house was just a house. No, it wasn't. It was their life together. It was our childhood. It was everything they worked for. Davis stared at the floor. I thought I was making it better. You thought you were making it yours. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Upstairs, I could hear Morgan slamming drawers and muttering angrily. "What happens now?" Davis asked. "You move out. You figure out your finances. You deal with the consequences of your choices. And you get to live happily ever after in your perfect house." "This isn't a fairy tale, Davis. There's no happily ever after. Mom and Dad are still dead. The house is still destroyed, and our family is still broken." "Then why did you do it?" "Because someone had to stand up for them. Someone had to say that their lives mattered." Davis stood up slowly. "I need to help Morgan pack." "Davis," he turned back. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry it came to this." "No, you're not." "I'm sorry you made choices that led to this. I'm sorry you couldn't see what you were destroying." He studied my face for a long moment. "You know what the worst part is? You're right. About all of it. I did want to erase them. I wanted to make it mine so badly that I forgot it was never supposed to be about me. It's not too late to remember that." "Yeah, it is." He headed for the stairs. "It's way too late." 3 weeks later, I stood in the driveway watching the moving truck pull away. Davis and Morgan had barely spoken to me during the packing process. They'd taken their furniture and personal belongings, leaving behind the expensive renovations they couldn't undo. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You always wanted the last word, but Dad gave it to me." I looked up to see Davis sitting in his car at the end of the driveway, watching me through the windshield. I walked to my front door, my door, and turned the key. "You always wanted the last word," I whispered to the empty house. But Dad gave it to me. I closed the door behind me and didn't look back. The house felt different without Davis and Morgan's furniture. Emptier, but somehow more honest. I walked through the gutted rooms, running my fingers along the cold marble countertops that had replaced Mom's worn wooden ones. Anna knocked on the door that afternoon, carrying a small potted plant. "I brought you something," she said, holding up a tiny rose bush. "I managed to save a cutting from your mother's garden before they destroyed it." I took the pot carefully. "You saved one?" "Just one. It's from the bush she planted when you were born. I've been nursing it back to health in my greenhouse." The plant was small and fragile, but I could see new buds forming on the stems. "Will it survive?" "With care, it will. Your mother always said roses are tougher than they look." We walked to the backyard, where the expensive deck stretched across what used to be the garden. The space felt sterile and lifeless. "I want to tear this up," I said. "All of it." "That's a big job." "I have time." Anna smiled. "I have tools." We spent the next week dismantling the deck. Anna brought her gardening equipment, and I rented a sledgehammer. Each board we pulled up felt like reclaiming something stolen. Kaya came by on Saturday, bringing coffee and donuts. "You know you're completely insane, right?" she said, watching me attack the deck supports with a crowbar. "Probably." "Good. Sanity is overrated." She picked up a hammer and started pulling nails. "So what's the plan? Rebuild everything exactly like it was?" "I don't know yet. Maybe something new, but something that honors what was here before." "Like what?" I paused, wiping sweat from my forehead. Mom always wanted to teach writing classes. She used to talk about turning the house into a retreat for artists and writers. "That's a beautiful idea." "Davis would hate it." "Good. Fuck Davis." Maya stopped by that evening, finding us covered in dirt and splinters. "How's the demolition going?" Therapeutic, I said. How's Davis doing? Not well. Dorian dissolved their partnership. Davis had to sell his house to cover the business debts. He and Morgan are renting a small apartment across town. And Morgan? Filed for divorce last week. Apparently, financial ruin wasn't part of her life plan. I felt a pang of something. Not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. Do you regret it? Maya asked. Which part? Any of it. I looked around at the half-demolished deck, at Anna planting the rescued rose bush in a corner of the yard, at Kaya sorting through salvaged wood. I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it. That's honest. It's the only way I know how to be. The next morning, I found a box on my doorstep with no return address. Inside were some of Dad's books, the poetry collection, a few medical journals, and a photo album I hadn't seen in years. There was a note in Davis's handwriting. Found these in storage. Thought you should have them. I flipped through the photo album. Pictures of our childhood, family vacations, Mom in her garden, Dad building the treehouse. On the last page was a photo I'd forgotten. Davis and me as kids, both covered in dirt, helping Mom plant her first rose bush. He looked happy in the picture. We both did. My phone rang. Davis. Did you get the box? Yes. Thank you. There's more stuff in storage if you want it. I can't afford to keep the unit. Okay. A long pause. Mia? Yeah? I'm sorry. About all of it. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed to say it. It changes something. What? It means you remember who you used to be. Another pause. I saw Anna at the grocery store. She said you're rebuilding the garden. Trying to. Mom would like that. I hope so. She would. She always said you were the one who understood what mattered. I closed my eyes. Davis? Yeah? The house is going to be a writing retreat for people who want to create something meaningful. That sounds like Mom. It is like Mom. That's the point. I know. I'm glad you're doing it. We hung up without saying goodbye. I walked to the backyard, where Anna was watering the rescued rose bush. The plant had grown in the past week, new leaves unfurling in the morning sun. It's going to make it, Anna said. How can you tell? Look at the roots. They're spreading. I knelt beside the plant, touching the soft earth around its base. In a few months, it would bloom. In a few years, it might be strong enough to produce cuttings for new plants. This house is mine now, I said to the empty yard, to the memory of my parents, to the future I was building from the ruins of the past. And I finally know what to do with it.